Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Barlow, and I am currently completing my coursework in educational leadership. Today, I will be presenting key insights from Chapter 6 of Breakthrough Principles by Desravanes, Aquino, and Fenton, 2016. The topic for this presentation is planning and operations. I will be summarizing the core concepts from this chapter, connecting them to leadership practice, and reflecting on how strong planning and operational systems influence both teacher performance and student outcomes. Planning and operations are often misunderstood in school leadership. Many principals, especially those new to the role, view operations as separate from instruction, something to be handled off to the side while their main focus is on teaching and learning. However, as this chapter makes it very clear, the reality is the opposite. In high performing schools, operational excellence is directly tied to instructional excellence. Without sound systems and strategic planning, even the best instructional efforts will fail to gain the proper traction. The first key insight from the chapter is that effective leaders create clarity through planning. That means that their planning systems, their planning methods are very clear, and there is clarity to all stakeholders that are involved so they have a clear message, they have clear instructions, and that the objective is always clear. They do not allow the school year to unfold in a reactive way. Instead, they proactively design the calendar, staffing assignments, and professional learning experiences around instructional priorities. The chapter emphasizes that breakthrough principles plan backwards. They start by identifying what success will look like at the end of the year and then map out the steps needed to get there. So they create a roadmap on how to get there through what we call backwards planning. One of these examples in the book illustrates this very profoundly. A principal who wanted to improve reading outcomes first mapped out the testing calendar, then worked backwards to ensure that the necessary professional development on guided reading would take place early in the school year. They also blocked time on the calendar for data meetings well in advance. This approach ensured that teachers had time to learn, implement, and refine new instructional practices long before students were expected to demonstrate mastery. As a leader, this makes me think critically about how often our intentions are good, but our planning is often weak. We say we want to improve writing instruction or STEM or even attendance, but have we truly blocked out the time for the necessary training? Have we created the space for teachers to collaborate around these goals? If we do not make space for priorities, then the day to day urgencies of school life will crowd them out. A second major insight is that operations must serve instruction. The chapter highlights that every system goal of supporting student learning. This includes the master schedule, budget decisions, hiring processes, and even arrival and dismissal procedures. If these systems are not intentionally aligned with instructional priorities, they can undermine or compete with them. An example that really resonated with me was how one leader used their master schedule as a key lever for improving outcomes. By adjusting the daily schedule to create dedicated intervention blocks, the principal was able to provide struggling students with the extra time and support they needed without sacrificing core instruction. Similarly, the leader used Title I funds strategically, allocating resource toward teacher training, not random purchases. This shows how operational choices directly support instructional goals when approached intentionally. Another key concept from the chapter is the value of consistency and predictability in school operations. Schools thrive when routines are clear and predictable. This is true for both students and teachers. I would say that this is true for all stakeholders who are involved at the campus level and even beyond the campus level. When a school's arrival, dismissal, hallway transitions, and testing procedures run smoothly, It creates a sense of order that frees teachers and students to focus on learning. The book gives an example of a school where inconsistent lunch schedules led to behavior issues and lost instructional time. It is very important to make sure that there are necessary systems in place for the different transitions that happen on a campus so that it's not cutting away or eating into time that could be used for instruction. And so we see this example in the book in chapter 6. It does a fine job at highlighting and emphasizing and making that clear for us. So once the principal implemented a consistent and well communicated lunch routine, both discipline issues and tardiness decreased. This small operational change had a big impact on school climate. I reflect on this in my own experience. I've seen firsthand how disorganized events, such as chaotic assemblies or unclear testing procedures, cause stress both for staff and students. On the other side of this, when leaders take the time to think through details and communicate clearly, the entire campus runs more smoothly. Consistency builds trust. It reduces anxiety and supports a positive school culture. Another core point in Chapter 6 is the importance of distributed leadership when it comes to operations. The authors caution against the trap of principals trying to manage every detail themselves. The most effective leaders build the capacity of their teams. This is assistant principals, instructional coaches, office staff, and teacher leaders so that operational systems are shared responsibilities. This frees the principal to maintain a strong focus on instructional leadership while ensuring that the day-to-day systems run with fidelity. An example from the book shows how one principal empowered a leadership team to manage testing logistics while the principal focused on visiting classrooms and supporting instruction. The outcome was that both testing and instruction were executed well. This resonates with me because I've noticed that principals who try to do it all often burn themselves out and become reactive instead of strategic. Building leadership capacity is a key takeaway that I will apply in my future practice. The final theme that I want to highlight is that strong planning and operations create the conditions for great teaching and learning. I'm going to say that again. Strong planning and operations create the conditions for great teaching and learning. When schools lack clear systems, teachers waste valuable time navigating through confusion rather than putting that time into effective quality instruction where we are able to see the most desirable outcomes in student achievement. And so when there are systems in place, teachers spend less time on behaviors and less time on trying to redirect students versus being able to actually deliver the instruction that is necessary. When budgets are misaligned, professional learning suffers. When schedules are not optimized, intervention opportunities are often lost. In contrast, when operations are tight and purposeful, teachers are free to focus on what matters most, and that is teaching students. As the authors note, effective planning and operations provide guardrails that keep instructional priorities on track. In my view, this means that principals must see operational excellence as a moral responsibility. We are not just managers, we are architects of the learning environment. When we get the operational side right, we honor our teachers' time, protect instructional minutes, and ensure that every child has access to the education they so deserve. In my personal leadership growth, this chapter challenges me to elevate how I view planning and operations. It is not enough to have an instructional vision. We must also have the operational discipline to bring that vision to life. I now understand that crafting the master schedule, managing budgets, and designing professional development calendars are leadership actions that directly impact student outcomes. And to leave you with this, the key lessons from chapter 6 are very clear. First, leaders must create clarity through proactive planning. Second, operations should serve and align with instructional goals. Thirdly, consistency and predictability matter greatly for school culture. Fourthly, leadership must be distributed to sustain operational excellence. And finally, planning and operations are not just management tasks, they are critical levers for improving teaching and learning.